Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I create this Super Mini Garden Bracelet. It is a beautiful, delicate, and dainty design featuring SuperDuos and RounDuo minis, and some crystals, of course, for a little bling and shine. If you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description. We always put links there for you to get back to our website. That way you can see the full listing of products and actually get some different color options too if you want. Gather up your supplies and let's get started. So to begin this bracelet, I'm going to start with our wire guard and one of our clasps here. I have the tongue clasp, and the reason I'm doing this is because this isn't a bracelet where we're working back and forth. We're doing each component of our garden together. So to begin, I have a size 10 needle on some size 8 crystal dragon thread, and I have my 4mm 1111 mini RounDuo, my SuperDuo, and my 8 seed bead. On my sample, I also used teardrops on the edges, so feel free to do that. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail because I'm going to put my needle back on and reinforce that. Now what I'm doing right now is going down through the wire guard, so that way my thread sits right in the middle of that guard. I'm going to pop on the end of my bracelet, and the reason that I'm doing this one and this tongue section is because it's lighter. So that way I don't have to carry my whole clasp as I'm working. I just have that tongue section. What I'm going to do now, and what I like to do for most of my projects, is pinch in the wire guard, so that way the ends sit closer together. And then I'm just going to go in again, making sure I have a little bit of a tail. I have about 6 inches left. I'm going to have to put a needle on, reinforce, and kind of weave through a couple beads. I'm going to tie a knot at the end of the piece. That's just going to kind of hold it in place. And again, I'm going to make sure as I do this that my thread stays in my wire guard. Have that nice knot after. And now we shall begin. We're going to begin from the inside out. Now, you can begin from the interior of the piece, but you're going to have to switch to the exterior right away. So we are going to go from the exterior basically in towards the interior, starting with our 4mm bead and working our way to the edges and kind of collecting that outer edge. The outer edge is going to consist of a 4mm bicone, which we're going to do a couple beads leading up to. So we are going to go in here, and I want you to do one of your gold and silver, right there, the silver lined, 2 of your green beads, 1 of your crystal, 2 green beads, 1 of your golden crystals, and now we're going to go back up through the wire guard and around. And this is going to get us set up basically to start our garden. When you go through the wire guard and the clasp, you're going up through the loop here. You're going to go down through the other side. Get my fumbly with my end of my wire there. And once you come down the other side, we're going to go through our piece here a little bit. So we're coming out our 4mm bead. So we're going to pull in nice and tight. Make sure that our tongue is in that loop. Go through the first 11, the next 2 11s, and come out through the 4mm bicone. Give a nice tight pull so we don't see any extra thread kind of floating around through the project. This is going to get us ready then to go into our first unit. From here on out, this is going to be my pattern every time I start a new one of my little garden pieces. We're going to do 2 11s followed by, and I'm using all the green color for the exterior, 2 11s followed by a 4mm, 1 11 SuperDuo, 1 11 crystal. So always on the sides of the SuperDuo, on the outer edge, we're putting 1 11. 2 11s crystal, 2 11s crystal, 1 11 SuperDuo, 1 11 crystal, 2 11s. That's always going to be the pattern where you have the 2 11s next to the middle crystal and 1 11 next to the SuperDuo. From here, we're going to sew back through that 4mm bead that our thread is currently coming out of, right there. And we're going to sew over into the SuperDuo through that same hole. And what we're going to do now is actually go in and form the interior of our loop. So to form the interior of our loop, we're going to step down, going from the outer hole of our SuperDuo into the inner hole. And sometimes with these beautiful colors like this halo here, you can get a little bit of what I call shrapnel going through the hole. Usually you can go in and kind of punch it out, use your needle and kind of scrape out that middle there. You can usually hear it a little bit. What happens is some of that glaze will get stuck in the middle. We're going to go from the exterior hole to the interior hole. And as we do so, then we're going to use the gold seed beads and add in our RounDuo minis. So as we go from the interior to the exterior hole, and I was able to just use a beading awl here to get that little section out, we're going to add in our RounDuo minis. The RounDuo minis are going to connect to the SuperDuos here. And again, we're going to connect with 11-Os in our opposite color. So this is the silver line gold, just to give a little bit of that goldeny touch to it. Oops, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're going to do an 11 RounDuo mini 11 through the SuperDuo, the second hole of the SuperDuo, because what we're doing is we're pulling them in towards the interior. 11 RounDuo mini 11 back through the SuperDuo. Now we're going through the interior most hole of all of the beads, which is going to allow the SuperDuo there to have an exterior hole. That's what we are going to catch onto and connect it to the crystals that we already have on the side. We're going to go through the RounDuo, so through the 11 before, through the RounDuo, kind of pull in nice and tight to lock it in place. And then just like we did on the on the SuperDuo, we're going to step up, going from the inner hole to the outer hole of that RounDuo. From here, we're going to connect to the crystals that lay on the exterior sides. We're going to connect to the ones that are basically the furthest points away from the sides. What we're going to do here is we are connecting with a seed bead, going right into that crystal. So we are going to add one of our crystals. Again, we're going with our gold here. And you're going to go into that bicone that sits on the side. So if you're looking right here, and 11 goes on, we're going to go into the bicone, into the 11, that's right after the bicone and out. It's always challenging when you start out with 3 feet of thread. All right, see how that kind of locks that in place there? When we get to the outer edge here, I want you to do a 15, an 11 and 8, 11, into the next 11-O seed beads. This is going to cap around the SuperDuo bead. Once that caps around the SuperDuo bead, just give kind of a nice tight pull. The 8-O will pop to the top and just kind of hang out there for some color variance. When you're coming out here on the opposite side, we want to connect the RounDuo to the seed bead that sits on the side. So you're going to make sure to come out right after, I went one too many, going to come out right after the 4mm. Add your 11-O in there, go into the RounDuo mini, add an 11-O, go into the crystal, go in. Once you go into the crystal, go ahead and feed your thread and needle through the 11-O and see how that connects it. Here on the exterior, crystal, 8, crystal. In my simple piece, remember I used the 3x4mm Miyuki drops. You can totally do that as well. Once you're through the crystal there on the opposite side, one more 11-O gets added into the interior of the project, into that second hole of the RounDuo mini. That gets our first little garden block. And now what we're going to do is constantly do the exact same thing, attaching on the sides. So we're going to go from the RounDuo here out to the outer edge, going through the 11, always where your thread path worked. And you can see that I'm constantly turning my project around and around as I'm working with it. This is always with every single project. What that does is it allows me to be the fastest and most efficient. So that way you can always sew away from you or towards you. It's up to you, however it feels comfortable. And I'm going through my path here, going out to my outer edge. I'm making sure anywhere my needle and thread trek through here, that it is already a spot where needle and thread have connected and gone through. Coming out through the 4mm bead on the side, we are going to once again start that pattern over. Once you're out through the bicone, you're going to do the exact same pattern over again. So you have your 2 11s followed by your bicone. Then you have your 11s on either side of your SuperDuo, 1 bicone, a second bicone with 2 11s on each side, 1 more bicone, your SuperDuo with the 11s on the side, 1 bicone, and 2 more 11s, because your other crystal is already there. So I'm going to go into the crystal that my thread is currently coming out of, and that's going to make my exterior loop here of this little mini garden. I'm going to go in through the 2 11s, the 4 millimeter bicone, the 11 after, and the SuperDuo. Give a nice tight pull and go from the SuperDuo bottom hole to the top hole here, folding that in towards the center. As we fold that in towards the center, here's where we add our 11 RounDuo Mini 11. Again, that's secondary color, so it's the silver lined gold color, into that second hole of the SuperDuo bead, which is going to bring it towards the interior of the project. Another 11 RounDuo Mini 11 get added, and you're back through that starter SuperDuo. That gets that middle section here. We're going to step up on the RounDuo next. So we're going through the 11, through the mini, and here, just like that SuperDuo, is where we're going to step up. So we're going to go from the inner hole to the outer hole of the RounDuo Mini. Once you're in the outer hole of that RounDuo Mini, add 1 more gold bead, go through the 4 millimeter bicone that's closest to the SuperDuo, so you're going towards the project growth, or where the bracelet's growing. From here, I'm going to turn it to the side just to make it easier. I'm also going to go through the 11-0 seed bead. Once I'm through that 11-0, grab your secondary or your gold 11-0, your 8 millimeter, your gold 11-0, skip over the SuperDuo top, go into the 11 and the 4 millimeter bicone that sits on the exterior. Once you're out that 4 millimeter bicone, grab another 11, go into the second hole of the RounDuo that sits on the other side. Out that RounDuo Mini, grab another 11 into the bicone that sits on the opposite side, as well as the 11 if your needle wants to go through there right away. My rule of thumb is if the needle automatically wants to go to the next place, go for it. If it wants to pop out, don't force it. You usually need to pull your thread tighter than anyway. 11, 8, 11 goes on into the next 11 crystal. These 3 beads here that we just put on tops our RounDuo or our SuperDuo. There at the top. And just kind of make sure they're sitting correctly. Out your 4 millimeter bicone, grab an 11-0 and into the RounDuo Mini. That gets the second portion there of your little stepping stone. It's a really, really pretty, almost Victorian look to it, and we're going to keep growing this mini garden. After you have all of your units here, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to make it about a 7-inch wrist to let you know. I'm going up through the wire guard, but first I put on my 2 11s in the green color, followed by my 1 gold, which matches the other side, coming out of that last 4. I'm going to sew down through that wire guard, and because there's not a front and back to this bracelet, and because the clasp is rounded, it doesn't matter which way you put it on. But if you do have a clasp that has a side, you want to make sure that when you fold it over, that tongue sits correctly inside. Coming out here, we're going to do 1 more of our 11-0 in the gold, and then we're going to do 2 in the green, and of course I need 1 more green out there. And then we're going to go back through that 4 millimeter bead. We're going to reinforce this right away, going through a second time. Again, always making sure when you use a wire guard that it has the thread inside the channel of that wire guard. Around the bead we go. Back down through the wire guard. Nice tight pull. And into the beads on the opposite side. Once you have that in there, you're going to weave your thread and needle. If you want to, you can go 1 more time. I'm going to weave my thread and needle back into the design. Going through here. And I'm going to tie my thread and needle off within the project. So you want to do this if you're using the white thread next to a crystal, or the silver lined crystal is also good, that it'll just kind of disappear in there. You can see I made a loop and then I sewed through that loop once. I'm going to sew through that loop twice, doing a nice sewer's knot. So you can see the thread is kind of looped around there once and twice. Give a nice tight pull, and that'll tighten the thread right there and tie that nice knot. From here, I'm going to take my thread path a little bit further back, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Remember that on the other side, I left myself a little bit of a tail. Go ahead and do that same exact thing. Now I'm going to take my thread and needle out here at the edge near my next bead, grab my thread zap or my thread burner here, heat it up by pressing the button, burn it down, and then burn it flat against the project. And that finishes up your bracelet once you get done the other side, and repeat doing the same thing. It is a beautiful, simple little bracelet, which is very, very dainty and shines like crazy in person. It has that beautiful rose finish, and I love the halo beads that are used. Thanks so much for joining me in the creation of this Super Mini Garden Bracelet. It is beautiful, dainty. I can't wait to see your different colors of your gardens in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Don't forget, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And if you need any materials, all those links are below in the description of this video. As always, Potomac Beaders, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.